Hey everybody, this is a news. 12 minutes late, but still we are there. So welcome everybody and welcome Kevin. What we are looking at today is, well, by means of Freshworks, Plattform, and what does it help and what's new in the CRM market from the view of Kevin. So, and with that, I'd like to ask you, Kevin, to just introduce yourself, your career path, passions, the human.
Sure. Absolutely. Thomas, can you hear me okay?
Yes. All
Awesome.
good.
Great.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for having me today. And just a little bit about my recent past. I've been with Freshworks a year. In fact, yesterday was my 1-year anniversary at Freshworks. So I'm very excited.
Congratulations.
Say again?
Congratulations.
Well, thank
Great.
you.
Mazel tov.
And I think that, for those of you that don't know me, my career has always been in kind of large enterprise software style companies. I spent 5.5 years at ServiceNow, was at VMware, and always have been in either enterprise software or the software as a service space. And, the opportunity at Freshworks is just great. The market and the customers that we talk to on a regular basis are super excited about where we're headed. And I'm obviously very excited about where Freshworks is headed, which is why I joined the company. And 1 year in, it's just been a great ride. So that's a little bit about me.
Mm-hmm. What made you change from a company like VMware that is on a totally different line of enterprise software than Freshworks towards the CRM business or CX business?
Yeah, I've always been a learner. I always like to go from company to company with the intent to learn about new technology. And back when I was at VMware, for example, it was all about abstracting the infrastructure and using software in a way that reduced the reliance on specific hardware. That was a really cool space at the time, this software-defined mentality. And then when I joined ServiceNow, it was really about the opportunity to put some very traditional, IT-oriented opportunity into the cloud. And so cloud computing was really kind of the focus of that. I did a brief stint at a company called Automation Anywhere. And so I was focused on learning about the RPA market, robotic process automation. And then, Freshworks is similar to what I've done throughout my career, is help a company grow quickly, focus on, a software as a service oriented solution, help customers with cloud computing and how they can be more efficient. So it's always kind of been that theme, but at the same time, it's been about me learning new technology.
Right. Well, I suppose this is the time to ask the COVID question. Joining a new company is always a little bit of an upheaval for you. And the fact that the company itself has had to deal with changes because of a worldwide health crisis can't make things any easier. How has that been, in your opinion, in this particular case?
I will say that most tech companies were more prepared for the demands of remote work than many of the companies out there that had to quickly pivot to remote work and had to do it overnight. They had to figure out, what collaboration platform they were going to use, whether it was Zoom or WebEx. And they had to take an employee population that was not used to being remote and teach them how to be productive in a remote setting. So I think in general, tech companies were more prepared because we allowed for remote work. I personally have been with 2 companies during the pandemic, which has been very interesting to see kind of like how a company approaches onboarding new employees, how different it is to get to know your coworkers. And then, of course, as restrictions have relaxed, we've done more and more in person as time has gone, adhering to all kinds of, detailed policies around what in-person gatherings can look like. So in general, I think tech companies have been very prepared. And then as we've gone through the course of the pandemic, it's really just we've just all learned to adjust and be more flexible. And I think that's a pretty good thing.
Out of curiosity and continuing that track, what's the hybrid work policy that Freshworks currently adheres to or uses?
We're trying to go with what the market is telling us to do. And so what I'll explain to you very quickly is that we have found that because of whether the concept is the great resignation or the great transformation or transition, it has driven a lot of employee behavior. And so Freshworks is at the cutting edge of allowing people to work where and when they want to work. And let me explain a little bit, because if you don't know a lot about Freshworks, Freshworks was founded in India, in Chennai, India in 2010. So here we are 12 years in, and this is a global company now with offices all over the world, with a still just great presence in Chennai, India. Therefore, and I'm on the west coast of the United States. It would be impossible for me to work the same business hours as the Chennai team. So we have to be asynchronous to an extent in how we work with one another. I tend to load up my mornings with meetings so that I can meet with the Chennai team that's in India near East.
I hear you, yeah.
So it's really just about flexibility and making sure that we can accommodate a global enterprise, and how people want to work these days is more often than not asynchronous, and also being flexible about business hours.
And places, probably.
Yeah.
There was 2 or 3 years ago, there was this huge outcry here in Germany when SAP announced a work from everywhere policy. The next day, the tabloids screamed like SAP people can work out of the swimming pool, basically.
No. Sounds good to me, man.
Well, I wouldn't have complained as well, but if they can do their job, they can do it from everywhere, basically. It needs a connection, isn't it? That's connection of the tools.
All we really hope for at Freshworks is that people are productive and they're happy and healthy. So, the employee experience matters a lot. And so we attract and retain talent on what that employee experience is for everyone. And that means flexible working conditions. That means, not forcing employees to do something that they don't want to do, because candidly, that's bad business. And so if the employee experience is great, what happens is that those employees pass that on to the customer. And so a great employee experience is really about a great customer experience. And we found that, Freshworks employees are happy when we are providing just the greatest employee experience.
Something I've noticed, and I'm sure Thomas has noticed as well, the Freshworks people we've met at events and also electronically are probably some of the most enthusiastic people for their jobs that we're aware of. You guys just love doing what you do, and it shows. So clearly you've got employee experience at least a little bit figured out.
I would say that people are excited about the journey we're on. That's one of the reasons I was attracted to the company. Whether it's the top leadership or it's someone very early in career, just starting out in Chennai or another part of the world, people generally believe in our purpose. And that's that, we empower the people that power your business. And when you think about that, there's a direct correlation to that employee experience around empowering those people and then empowering the business as a result. So people are really bought into the purpose and the journey that we're on, and that includes myself.
Well, talking about the purpose, Freshworks, to quite an extent, is a CRM/CX company. So what's CX, EX? Don't forget about that part, but I'm a CRMer, so I start with the C. So what do you think at these days really matters in that industry?
Well, just a point of clarification, Freshworks started out as a CX company. In fact, the company name was Freshdesk. That's our CX product, our flagship product, if you will. And what we quickly found is, at least, our CEO, G, Jede is his full name. And always people ask me if I can pronounce it, and the answer is yes. But we all call him G.
You just prove
Can
it.
you pronounce it correctly? That's the question.
That's right. And so the company found that as we were doing business with customers that started out in CX, they were actually utilizing our CX product, Freshdesk, for IT use cases, like in the help desk of a typical IT operation. And so what we found is that there was customer-facing utility around Freshdesk, but then we created Fresh Service, which is essentially the way to, handle and to be efficient at handling a high volume of requests coming into an IT department around ticketing and automation associated with that ticketing. So that's when customer experience and employee experience was really born at Freshworks, was the duality associated with that experience, that you could take a lot of the same use cases and apply them to IT and essentially address not only the customers that you're seeking to serve, but also the employees and the way they get their jobs done. So I wanted to just kind of clarify that. And then the second part of your question is kind of what's going on in CX. You can't talk about CX these days without talking about CRM, and that's customer relationship management. And I'd just like to start by saying that, the definition of CRM is not universal. I mean, some people believe it is a couple of things, and some people believe it's one thing. We firmly believe at Freshworks that CRM is three things. It is what is traditionally known as Salesforce automation, made popular by that company, Salesforce, that we all know. There's marketing automation, and that's personalized and targeted marketing that you can do to attract more clients. And then, of course, there's the support element, which is the CX element. And so CRM itself is made up of those three dimensions. So that's a really important definition, because we approach CRM and the role of CX in a holistic CRM strategy that way. So I'm happy to elaborate, but I wanted to make sure we started there as far as the definition of CRM.
Yeah, no, but that's fine. And what does matter in this market currently, in your eyes?
Yeah, I'd say that number one, understanding how to traverse those different dimensions. And that's kind of a mouthful, but if you're talking about sales, marketing, and support at the same time, a lot of companies invest in separate software solutions and separate employees to handle those things. So for example, your sales team is going to be different than your support team in many cases, and that's different from your marketing team. But what we've found, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, is that there's a blurring of those lines as companies have gone more digital. And so if you look at the agents that people employ to be either on a telephone or answering questions digitally through chatbots or electronic means, what's really interesting is that that situation can start out as a support engagement, but it can quickly change to a marketing or a sales engagement if that agent is trained properly. And so the software they're using has to be ready to actually handle that different situation. So I'll give you a quick example. If I, let's just use telephony as an example, because I'm a little on the older side, and I would typically pick up the phone, literally pick it up, and call a company for customer support. I'd be on hold for a period of time. I'd talk to an agent. That agent had to ask me a bunch of questions, and then maybe they could solve my problem, or they would transfer me to someone else. Not a great experience in support, okay? And so as the market has evolved, we've employed things like the context associated with a unified data model. And so, for example, if I know the phone number of the person calling, and if I'm the agent, then I can acknowledge right away that, is this, let me switch it around. Is this Kevin Murray? And you're calling from this phone number. What can I help you with today? Like instantly, that context is really important. And so if you take the idea of context and you apply it to a sales situation, a marketing situation, and a support situation, that experience for the customer coming in, whether it's digital or telephony oriented, can be made completely delightful just if that agent has the information at their fingertips around things like the last transaction that this customer had with us, what their buying behavior has been, what their geographic location is, seasonality, like do they buy during the fall more than the summer, things like that. And so you can empower an agent to be a salesperson, a marketing person, or a support person with that data, that unified data that is context driven and it can be used in a very powerful way to improve customer satisfaction and customer engagement.
How about throw a little buzzword in there? So making it easy for the user, making it easy for a customer, reducing friction, adding friction. So where does that play a role?
Yeah, the friction always comes from an agent that has not been empowered to answer someone's question or solve their problem, if you think about it. And let's just go with a average experience where someone wants to call in and get a refund for something. They may go through 3 or 4 different agents or people on the phone or through a digital channel to get their problem solved. That is by definition friction, right? And so if you can alleviate that friction by equipping that agent with that context I was talking about, suddenly the friction is reduced, the experience is great, and you're talking about an agent having a simple conversation with a customer that can turn into a subsequent sales encounter or a sales transaction, or as part of their marketing strategy to nurture that customer moving forward, all because we've removed friction in the process.
Well, removing that friction has required a lot of building on the back end, I suppose. The way I see it, Freshworks sort of backed into being a platform, starting with one product in one area and then growing and growing, interlinking, and now you've got Freshworks Neo, the platform. It's kind of a different way of putting a platform together from how some other vendors have done it over time, where that's kind of been their goal from the beginning. How do you think that has affected Freshworks in its growth and in its current efforts? That was a lousy question. You can come up with a better answer than the question.
Well, that's a good question. So let me give you my definition of kind of like the evolution of a company with a platform strategy. Everyone starts out with a product, then they get to a multi-product situation, and that could turn into a portfolio for them, right? And that's different than a platform. It can turn into a platform, whether it's an evolutionary part of the strategy or it's a platform from day one. Both are possible. And the whole notion of a platform is like a shared set of services that can be used across multiple applications. And so when you embrace the platform that way, suddenly you don't have to build simple fundamental services multiple times. You build them once and multiple applications can take advantage of those services. For example, like single sign-on, great example of a shared service that if you do it right and you do it at the platform level, you can have multiple applications take advantage of single sign-on instead of having their own separate authentication mechanism, which would be separate logins and passwords, which creates friction, to your point earlier. So the idea of a platform and its shared services is a really strong way to improve customer experience overall, okay? The other definition of platform, which I think a lot of people use more often, is like the low-code, no-code developer platform where people are building bespoke applications on their own. And that could be a company that has a small, array of developers that want to build applications using a certain development platform. That's okay too, but let's just be clear. There is a platform strategy at Freshworks that encompasses both of those things. The first is we have a platform called Neo that is the shared set of services that each of the application teams can take advantage of to quickly, add new capabilities and make the experience consistent for the end user. And then there's low code, no code style development where our customers can unify, customize, and extend their own applications using Neo or built on Neo to connect to like other data sources or other applications to unify data streams and other kind of shared services as well. So think of it as two really different things, but actually very, very, very related is the shared set of services that a company will use to build their own applications, and then the low code, no code development platform that customers and partners can use to develop and customize their own applications. Does that make sense?
Makes great sense to me. Yeah. And while we're here, I'll just take a moment to give a shout out to friend of the show and your fellow Freshworks employee, Alan Berkson, the Director of Thought Leadership, which, no, that's not an ominous title at all, Alan. But it's good to see you. Glad you're with us.
Yes, and happy for you to contribute further. By the way, how do you see the value of the role, basically, of context in service, marketing, as well as sales?
So is that question's for me?
Yes. Alan can't answer directly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was talking earlier about context and using data to provide that context. I like to say that a Freshworks customer, like a set of agents that are working with Freshworks software in CX or in IT, that they're situationally aware. And that is really important in customer-facing roles, where you have to identify whether or not you can solve a person's problem, like what is the problem, and do I have the information or the resources to solve it, or can I get that person to someone that can solve this person's problem? And then once they solve that problem, can they actually apply some, whether it's training or some savviness, to actually continue the conversation into a sales mode? And so, for example, if I'm a great agent that's situationally aware, and Thomas, you come to me and you want a refund, I'll give you your refund, but at the same time, I'll see that you bought a pair of shoes last month and you might need a tracksuit to go with that. And so I'll say, did you know that this item is on sale? And if you buy it today, you can take advantage of that sale price. And so suddenly I've gone from support agent to salesperson just because I have the context around that person's purchase history. So that situational awareness is everything in customer service, in CX, and in CRM, if you think about it, because as I defined earlier, CRM is sales, marketing, and support. And so a situationally aware agent can really, really delight customers in an amazing way if they have that context.
Let me yank your chain a little. So I have two times now, I'm known for yanking chains. I heard 2 or 3 times now, I heard, is what I say, that you refer to CX more as service or support, and CRM more the rest of the game. Did I hear that right? And
CRM
if so, why?
Support, right? So CRM describes 3 things. It's not the rest. It is the entirety of sales, marketing, and support.
What is CX then? What is CX then as an industry?
So CX is an evolution of customer support into conversational engagement and evolving it into a more CRM oriented engagement with a customer. It's short for customer experience for a reason. It's not just your typical phone support. It goes to chat, AI, bots, hybrid agents. So CX traverses into that world of really delighting customers, and therefore customer experience is really about being driven by that, the roots of CX into that multidimensional CRM.
Okay, now following the train of thought. So CX usually or frequently gets claimed as to be owned by the marketing department. What would you say a marketer who says that, oh, well, CX is more about us engaging the customer from a marketing side?
Well, it sounds like some companies will engage in a bit of a turf war as to where some of the, I think that the role of the chief customer officer and the chief revenue officer and the chief marketing officer, those are three really important strategic leadership roles that are all on the same page, with the end goal being customers and the delight and satisfaction they have through any means necessary. And the most progressive organizations, even Freshworks, is organized this way, where we have a fantastic partnership between those three leaders. And they all see the interaction with the customer as a single thing, not a separate thing through those three dimensions. So it's got to be like, maybe there's a different entry point, but certainly the way we serve customers adheres to the principles of making sure that, again, empowered people or agents actually power business to a great degree.
Okay. That's off topic. So it looks like one of our usual co-hosts made it as a guest. So Ralph, don't hesitate to ask questions. So he found, no, well, he hasn't found us on Facebook, as we don't do Facebook anymore.
You can take the man out of the podcast, but you can't take the podcast out of the man.
Yeah, right. So, okay. What in how far can you deliver that without a common, basically software stack that has a common foundation? CX as such. Apart from the turf war, so I agree with you that this is a holistic topic as well.
I think there are limitations if there are separate products for separate situations. So, for example, there are situations where if you're trying to meet the needs of a customer that needs a refund processed or to apply a discount of some kind, that they're not going to get the information if they call into the traditional customer service line or if they go to the sales line. Like, those two things will not be connected in most cases. And so if the average kind of customer is looking for the type of experience that could go from a sales situation to a marketing situation to a support or service situation, one strategy would be to employ like separate products for all three of those areas, because there are, whether they're market share leaders or they're well known in the industry, but the data does not connect. That's where the failure would be, is if the data does not connect across those three situations. And so the strategy from a customer perspective might be, I'm going to go with best in class in these individual categories. Sometimes that doesn't work. And in this case, I don't think it works, because I think the customer is not served as well as they could be if there's no context and no unified data across those lines.
So what would you say to a client who comes to you and proposes a best of breed infrastructure then?
Well,
I mean, basically you're a suite vendor.
Yeah, it's on us to show them the better way. So we would do a very quick kind of demo to show them how using something like AI-powered chat on a channel that they may not expect to be supported, like WhatsApp, or through their social channel like Instagram or something like that, that could be the entry point into a really, really powerful engagement that could turn from your average sales encounter into more targeted marketing down the line. We can actually demo that for them. And by showing that connectivity, it should make the point that if these things are not done in a way that has this kind of shared or unified data, you'd see that the friction is still there, and the customer would not be served properly.
What do you think are the respective merits of best of breed versus best of suite?
I think what happens is that a lot of companies that get into over investing in the capabilities wind up being more about that company, that vendor, than it is about the customer. There is a case where there's the law of diminishing returns. We have this concept of right sizing, just investing in the capabilities we know customers will be able to use. And that has been certainly our mantra in the Fresh Service product line, because if you look at traditional approaches in IT or information technology, there is so much stuff out there that the average customer can get confused very quickly. And we try to just keep it at the most common use cases they're going to encounter with their internal help desk or their IT operations functions. And, we've taken the same approach around right sizing in the CX space, in how, we choose which channels to support, what automations to invest in, how to bring AI to the surface to make that experience delightful for customers. So we don't want to overstuff our product so that customers wind up being confused and not utilizing many of the features that they've paid for. We want to make sure that it's a really solid fit, and they're going to get a lot of utility out of what they use from Freshworks.
Well, you've mentioned AI a couple of times, so I guess we may as well bring Freddie into the conversation.
Sure.
Freddie being the name of Freshworks AI, for those of you who may not know that. That's got to be a benefit for you, because Freddie is useful not only in the customer engagement, but also in helping the users of the platform itself coordinate. Yes?
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you employ AI to, whether it's to quickly process tasks across a large knowledge base, or to recognize keywords or classify information quickly, the customer is going to benefit in the way of speed and accuracy. That's really the benefit of AI, is speed and accuracy. Whereas it may take a human being, 10 minutes to find the appropriate answer, AI can actually, serve up the right information, the right solution, as fast as at digital speed, as fast as a computer. So fundamentally, AI is about that, speed and accuracy, and that's driven by the intelligence that is built into, whether it's the latest algorithms or it's research that we've done over time. Speed and accuracy, and then of course resulting in intelligence. That's kind of what you're looking for with any AI solution.
But not replacing the human intelligence, just supporting it, augmenting it, right?
That's a really important point, because we're struggling with the term itself, but like the notion of hybrid agents is a very popular thing right now. And so that means, like, if you have and can predict that 50% of the requests coming into your help desk are, redundant or common or repetitive in some way, you can apply AI-driven technology and knowledge articles and automation to process those things very rapidly without the need for human intervention. Now, where the human comes in is where maybe the AI has reached a point where it's either complicated or overly complicated than its programming, or the customer has reached a point where they're changing the course of the conversation that requires human intervention. That hybrid notion, and most importantly, that handoff, is really important.
Yes.
Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to feel like you're being bounced around, first of all. But secondly, you want that quality engagement to appear seamless. And once a human gets involved, that could be an even more delightful part of the experience for people. But the notion of the hybrid agent, a combination of, as you said, augmenting the technology with human intelligence, that's a very important part of overarching CX and therefore CRM engagement.
How about the salesperson?
Are you saying that we should have hybrid salespeople too?
Why not? I mean, one regularly hears the complaint from salespeople, which is a which are core users of any CRM solution, that they need to do far too much on their system instead of spending their time with value-added stuff. Yeah, so it means selling. Yeah. So in how far do they need? Where do you see their need for support or for getting hybridized?
Yeah, this is where Salesforce automation really came in, is handling all those tasks that salespeople used to have to put either into Excel spreadsheets or in pen to paper. Automating tasks within sales is not new. The more targeted and timely those tasks can be, a salesperson can be fantastically augmented by Salesforce automation of some kind. So, for example, running a playbook of how they would engage with a customer and what asset they could actually give to that customer at the right time within the sales process, that can be completely automated, where the salesperson is involved, but they don't have to do the hunting and the organizational part of engaging at that level. The software may actually suggest it for them. And in fact, that gives the salesperson the ability to manage many more opportunities as a result of that efficiency. So absolutely, there's fantastic opportunities for augmentation of a human salesperson. And that's, in fact, what Salesforce automation has done for years. And then coupling it with targeted marketing as you're nurturing customers that are not, or prospects that are not yet customers. That's an amazing way to do it as well, so that you don't have to do it by hand. And so you're talking about a fantastic partnership between automation and human beings, active and more successful in their jobs.
Yeah, no, as you are saying, Salesforce automation is around for a few days. So the company with that name is 99, or was it 97 even? So, and still one sees a lot, and I mean a lot, of salespeople being quite unhappy with their systems. So what do you think is going wrong? What can be and should be done better? What are you doing better?
Yeah, I'm going to bring this back around to this notion of context and situational awareness. So remember, the agent or the salesperson, if they have data about the prospect or the customer based on either a support or service engagement or a marketing asset that was sent or a previous transaction, they're going to be much more effective at their jobs. And so what is typically missing is context across those three dimensions of sales, marketing, and support. And that's what we do great. That's why we have this shared platform of services that is made possible by Neo, the Neo platform. That's why we've done what we've done to unify our single data model across these different groups or different products. That's what makes people more effective at their jobs and happier, and therefore they pass that on to the customer.
Okay, now, so let's take this other company's name into our mouth again without naming them. They claim the same since 97 or 99.
Well,
what did they do? What are you doing better?
Again,
Salesforce.
Context across those three.
Fluffy blue cloud.
I'm sorry?
I said the fluffy blue cloud people.
The fluffy blue cloud, yeah.
Oh, guys, look, in many ways, we in the software as a service industry are brothers in arms. So I would say that helping customers to solve problems across this for years has been a focus of many of us in the industry. And so I think it's very important to understand that we are all trying to do the same thing, that's do right by our customers. And in some cases, customers will choose us. Some will choose another provider. But there's definitely a shared purpose in making the customer experience and the employee experience great.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into vendor bashing here, but there are different approaches to the same solution. Some are right here, some are right there.
Yeah.
And the ones that are not right at all, they probably will be off market pretty soon. So what I'm really after is the differentiation aspect, because everybody says they are a CX vendor right now. Everybody has a platform. So means this is, from a customer point of view, on the outside, this is indistinguishable. So
Yeah.
what does help a vendor in general? So Freshworks, Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, Zoho, Sugar, name them. Yeah. What does help? How can one differentiate oneself in a cluttered market like that? I mean, it's very saturated.
Yeah, in most every industry, you're going to have a lot of players. But
Yeah.
what we look at for differentiation is coming back to the platform strategy and the unified data model and the context across those spheres. No one's doing it the way we are right now. And there's a lot of claims, of course, but when a customer experiences that situational awareness and empowered agents in the way that I've described today, those are customers that have really bought into what we're able to do for them. To your point, there's a lot of people making claims out there, but a unified data model across 3 dimensions is really important. A super simple way to set up, configure, and use software is an underrepresented part of what's going on out there. There's a lot of complicated software out there. And Freshworks invests in a design principle around this notion of delight made easy. And that's just making the software super easy to set up, configure, and use for people that don't have PhDs in computer science. We don't design software for those types of people. We design software for the average person, and they shouldn't have to have an advanced degree to use our software. So we take pride in those types of attributes where it's super simple and easy, it's powerful, yet it's cost effective for them. It's modern. And so, of course, there's going to be alternatives out there, but we really pride ourselves on focusing on that end customer and, of course, the agents that are making things possible for the end customer.
Yeah, and I love the delight made easy. I just love it. This is so catchy. It's straight to the point. That really helps a lot, I think. But how? You just said in relation to unified data model, there's no one else who does it like you. How do you do that? And then Marshall, next one is on you again, or for you.
Well, if I have to, I have to.
Please.
Yeah,
Please.
I'll answer the question quickly. So remember, in our shared services platform that we call Neo, that's how we are able to accomplish shared data across products. So that is a fundamental part of the platform strategy, is making sure we can connect those bits across the data model and then processes across the shared services and other things that I gave examples of earlier. But that's how we accomplish that, is with a platform approach to building for the future.
Marshall, now you.
Okay, sure. And while we're talking about the future, where do you see Freshworks going in terms of its customer base over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? Businesses often start in one particular cohort of the industry, certain verticals or a certain market size of customer, but they move over time. Do you think that you're in your sweet spot now? Do you think Freshworks is going to adapt or change that, or is working to? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think early on in this podcast, we talked about the impact of the pandemic. And we started it by talking about the impact to me personally. But if you look at the market and the industry, there's been this fundamental shift in behavior that people really want to do things online in a consumerized way when it comes to dealing with goods and services or acquiring goods and services. So that consumerization, that Amazon-like experience, has driven colossal change in the industry. And that means that like your products, whether you're a software provider or you're selling goods and services online, your digital experience has to be as good as where the bar is. And that bar is that Amazon-like experience or direct to consumer, with a lot of the big brands that are moving that way today. Companies have reinvented their experiences as a result of this, whether it's you're buying from Home Depot or Walmart or from Nike. This direct-to-consumer experience is critical. Freshworks was actually already positioned for this because we invested early on in something called product-led growth, or PLG. And so that ability to guide people through within the software itself, the usability of the software, uncovering capabilities they may not know about, trying and then ultimately buying, is an experience that we have done extremely well at. And will make sure that we advance that thinking, that design thinking with product-led growth. And then as we do business with larger, entities out there as well, having that hybrid experience between, a very, very well-skilled salesperson or customer experience representative that's working with these customers. And we will change as the market changes. And we have done that extraordinarily well because of our history in PLG, as I mentioned, and our focus on this delight made easy concept, so that software isn't complicated and bloated and overstuffed and overpriced. That's where we are, and that's where we're going to continue to be unless the market changes so drastically that it commands change, but I don't see it changing in that way.
Well, you do seem to be going where the customers are. Smart.
Thank you.
Can you elaborate a little, close to closing, on the design principles behind the applications? I'm thinking of the acronym.
Yeah, so this is what I call a softball question. Thank you for that.
Yep. Can't only yank chains. Sometimes I need to throw a pass.
So one of the things we're doing right now is we're actually on the road, and we're doing something called the Global Jam. And the Global Jam is a in-person event in many of the cities that might be near you. But we talk about the 5 design principles that we adhere to make this delight made easy thing happen. And there's 5 of them. The first one is modern. Okay. We believe that software should be modern, and it should be in consumer grade level of experience, even though it could be employed and used in an enterprise that's been around for years. It should still be modern. That's kind of principle number 1. The second one is unified. I've talked a lot about unified today, whether it's unified data or unified processes, critical part of the design process. The next one is scalable. And so we build for the enterprise, but we meet the needs of the small to medium business as well. So that scalability is really about enterprise grade being appropriate in its design ethos and its usability, even in the smallest companies out there. The next one is which is intuitive. And so the software needs to be able to you need to get up and running very quickly. You need to find things very easily and operate it very intuitively. So the next one is intuitive. And the last one is cost effective, and it's the C, cost effective. We're very proud of making sure we price our software at a reasonable rate that is really reflective of the value that the customer gets out of it and the capabilities that they're getting. So that was 5 things. And if you were keeping track there, MUSIC, modern, unified, scalable, intuitive, and cost effective, that spells music. So it's a really easy way to remember. That's why we're doing these global jams, is that we're jamming with Freshworks and having customers come jam with us. Even if you're a potential customer, come jam with us. The design principles of music are what make Freshworks who we are, and we're very proud of them. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, final one, as we are technically over time. So what is your prediction of what's being really important in the next two years, basically?
Yeah, I think that we're going to watch consumer behavior very closely. And the work from anywhere movement is very important right now. And employee experience driving customer experience is critical as well. So If you look at kind of like who's in the driver's seat right now, if you look at your LinkedIn feed, honestly, within 3 to 5 posts, you'll see someone starting a new job, because that's employees are in the driver's seat of how we're driving the economy right now, and they want the flexibility to work from anywhere and whenever they want. And so if you create an amazing employee experience, you're going to pass that on to the customer. And so we're very dialed into that dynamic, regardless of whether it's pandemic driven or just consumer driven in general. We're going to make sure that we help companies deliver this great employee experience that therefore is going to power great customer outcomes and customer experience for their customers and employees. Make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. So, in closing, let me come back to the screen. So let me post this link that Alan just shared one more time. So
You can do it. I have faith in you.
I just managed to. A Google search later, I could repost it. So whoever is interested probably should join. Not in the least because of there being the chance of meeting Alan, who is a great guy. So that will be, I think, quite enlightening. Thanks for your time, and thanks for the insight that you gave us, and thanks for fighting your way in. this was
Yeah, we appreciate your tenacity.
this was really appreciated. So to the balance of the audience who is still there, so Kevin right now is in there via a Zoom that is provided by Shelby. So this is a first for us. Because, well, StreamYard did just not cooperate with him. So we needed to impersonate him, and maybe, well, that might be found out by the provider. So sorry for everyone who wanted to join us on Facebook, because they can't. We took too long to get this up. And yes, thanks to you. We are going offline, or not offline, backstage now, ending the broadcast, and Shelby, just come back in.
Okay,
See-
sounds good.